Hello, my name is Josh Romero, and welcome to my webinar on creating music with Logic Pro X, the 7 elements to creating quality instrumentals. A little bit of my background: I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, a very musically influenced city where I've been playing the piano since I was 14 years old. I was raised in church where I learned how to play multiple different instruments. I play a little bit of the bass and a little bit of the drums as well, and my music was influenced from church and from the New Orleans area, so a little bit of jazz, a little bit of brass, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of it all. Right after high school, I was pushed into the military by my pops. Thanks. It wasn't so bad. I got to travel the world a little bit and learn about the different musical cultures and learn about the different cultures around the world. So it really influenced my music and where my music is at now. After I got out of the military, I went from the military to Full Sail University, where I obtained my bachelor's degree in recording arts and I obtained my master's degree in entertainment business, where I was a salutatorian. I am currently working on a master's degree in public relations. I have worked with multiple artists where with music and doing production, mixing and mastering. And I have also worked with multiple artists to help influence their music and multiple artists that help influence my music. A little bit of the agenda for the day: melody and chord progression, not just drums but quality drums, proper instrument selection, song structure, EQ and compression, and mastering. These are 7 elements that you must have in any mix or any of your production if you are looking to get the most out of your production. If you're skipping any of these steps, then you might be skipping out on missing out on some money from your production if that's your goal, or actually people wanting to actually listen to your music, because you could actually get a better sound out of your music from these seven elements. Now, of course, you have other elements you can add to your music to make your music better, but every single producer, engineer out there are adding these to their mixes in order to make the music better. So let's start with melody and chord progression. A lot of people start with the melody. I've learned over the years. Me myself, I start with the chord progression because that allowed me to see where I'm going to go with the emotions of the song. I don't force music unless I'm in a studio with a client, and they're looking for a certain type of feeling of the song. But if I'm just out making music myself, then I make how I feel. I make the music that comes to me for that day. So if you're choosing a chord progression, I've listed out multiple popular keys that people like to play in. The most keys that I play in, the key that I love to play in is F sharp, and also C, C major, C minor, and also G minor. So if you look at, if your chord progression is in C, then your melody have to be in C. You can't have a chord progression in C and then have a melody in D. It's just everything it'll throw everything off. And you kind of with music, you want everything to mesh and you want everything to sound right sonically. So if your music not sounding right sonically, then your chord progression, your melody may not be meshing the right way. Super important. Probably the most important step in your music production. Not just drums, because everybody could just put drums inside of a track and make music. But what we want to do is use quality drums. What I mean by that is Logic Pro X have now created a whole lot better drum selection. And beyond Logic, you also can go out and get better plugins from Native Instruments. You have Battery, you have Battery 3, you have Live Drummer, you have Easy Drummer for you to create better drum sounds. You can also stack your drums, like most snare drums that you're hearing these days. It's not just one snare that you hear going across. There might be 3 or 4 snare drums layered to get that one snare drum sound. Same thing with the kick drum. You might get the kick drum and you have, it's not just one kick drum, it might be multiple kick drums that make that one big kick drum sound. Now you could get the same kick drum and then layer it, but layering is really the key to getting quality drums, because if you don't have quality drums, then you really have to layer to make them sound even more massive, and it's all about sounding bigger. To me at least, bigger and better. We all like better. So here's a little example of some quality drums for you. Also, it's about proper instrument selection. So if you are making a Latin track, or you're making a hip hop track, you have to make sure that of that genre of music, are they using these instruments? Of course, in hip hop we use all kinds of different instruments, but in Latin music they don't. They have particular instruments that they like to use, congos, bongos, to be exact. Um, Mexican music, or in pop music and R&B music, all of the instrumentations, they have to mesh. If they don't mesh and they don't sound right sonically, then your whole production could be thrown off at the end of the day, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for our music to be better, bigger, bolder, and we want people to want to hear our music because of the quality of our music. All about song structure. These days, a lot of people like to stick to the typical song structure. Me, I like to change things up a little bit. But if you're looking to get the most out of your song, I guess you want to structure the song in the right way. Like have a 4 bar intro, then a 16 bar verse with an 18 with an 8 bar chorus, followed by a 16 bar verse, followed by another 8 bar chorus and a bridge. But you can kind of structure that, you could flip that structure any way you want to. You could put the chorus first if you want to. But knowing your song structure and having a strong song structure is key to creating quality instrumentals. Good levels. Ooh, this is a big one, because a lot of amateur engineers and producers like to, the levels are just too hot. If you're seeing red and it's clipping, then that means bring it down. You can get more out of your mix without your stuff, without your levels clipping. You can compress, you can EQ, you can run into another subgroup, you can stack your drums, you can stack your sounds in order to get a bigger sound. You don't have to be clipping. If you're clipping, you're not gonna get the most out of your mix, and you're definitely not gonna get the most out of your mastering if you're clipping, because by the time you send it to your mastering engineer, then you have no room. You don't have no room to grow. So levels, levels, levels. If you gotta have good levels. A good peak level for making music is -6. EQ and compression. This is where you could get tricky with this. You can EQ and you can compress right, then you can really get the most out of your mix. I want you to remember this for compression. With attack and release, just remember fast and slow. And with the threshold as well, fast and slow whenever you're mixing it. Just go and play with your compressor, and play with the attack and the release, and also the threshold. Bring it down low and then bring it up high. Bringing it down low would be fast, speeding it up actually. Then bringing it up high would be opening it up and making it a slower release or a slower attack. Depending on the song, then you can know where you need to EQ or where you need to compress that piece of instrument too. On top of that, with EQing, it's not all about adding EQ. Sometimes it's really about subtracting the EQ. Subtractive EQing is really key, because if you could take a few sounds out, you automatically would enhance other sounds around that sound. One thing that a lot of new producers do is they master their own music. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely master your own music. But if you want to get the most out of your music and the best quality out of your music, you want to send it to somebody that's qualified to master your music, or somebody that has the experience to master your music, to get the most out of your music. Because with mastering, every little bit counts. If you move a knob 0.5 dB, it might sound like you moved that knob 5 dB. So in order for you to get the most out of your music, you should study mastering, or study mastering engineers that you want to send your music to. There's plenty of them, and for a good price, great price these days, because it's a lot of them. So mastering, gotta go to mastering. Questions and answers. You can contact me on my Facebook or on my Twitter page for any questions, or you can leave it down in the comment section, and I'll reply back to any of your questions with a great answer. And and to recap a little bit on the 7 steps, if you just focus on these 7 steps, you can grow. You don't have to just use these 7 steps. You can add these 7 steps into what you're already doing to make your production even better. And I'll leave you with this: helpful links to making music better, as well as production of my own. Thank you for viewing my webinar. Thank you. Thank you.